Hey, it's JC. Welcome to Urban Knife Guy, where we explore the urban lifestyle and jungle survival. Today we're going to have a look at a made in Malaysia parang. This is made by FF Blades out of Ipoh, Perak, and this is a chandong style parang, but it's pretty unique. It's called the Parang Terung, and I'll show it to you in just a bit. First, if you watch this channel regularly but have not subscribed, please do so to help the channel out. And if you'd like to support the channel even more, do check out my shop links in the pinned comment or description. You can even join as a channel member. Thanks a lot. So I have quite a few FF Blade parangs. In fact, I've got a lot of different Malaysian parangs, and you've probably seen my playlist. If not, do check it out in the link in the card above or description below. And I've reviewed many Malaysian parangs and talked about how good Malaysian parangs are for the jungle environment. After all, the parang was invented in this part of the world. So this one is by FF Blades. He's a very decent maker. He makes, I would say, very high quality parangs at a very reasonable price. So for what you pay, you get very decent quality. He's got a lot of pride in his work, and he's always innovating, as I've witnessed over the years. Right, I'll show you a parang that I got from him some years ago, as well as other Malaysian parang patterns, just so that you can kind of see the similarities. Well, this is a 10-inch parang, that's the blade, and I think 10-inch is actually my sweet spot now. Now, previously I've talked about how an 8-inch blade parang is great for bushcraft and hiking, and I still think so if you are looking for a big all-purpose blade, you're new to bushcraft, or you just do not want to carry around too big a parang. 8 inches is good. Now, if you are pretty tall, maybe 6 foot and above, yes, you might want a 10-inch parang just to kind of balance it out. But for most people, I think 8 inches is pretty good. Personally, over the years, I've veered towards a slightly longer parang. 10 inches seems to be the sweet spot now, just based on the work I do, the weight I'm used to, and as you get used to a bigger knife, I guess maybe you tend to get comfortable with larger knives. So this is my current sweet spot, so I'm pretty happy with this. Now, I'm not sure if this particular version comes in other lengths, maybe a 12-inch, but definitely no 8 inches. So this is 10-inch. It comes with this kydex sheath with this holder or a clip, and it can accommodate a 1/2-inch wide belt. Very decent clip, and his kydex sheaths, decent quality. I believe it's a 1.5mm thick kydex, but really substantial. This is his older sheath. A bit different in terms of the belt loop attachment. He used this kind of just a molded kydex piece, and then a nylon belt loop. I made it shorter. Typically it would be about 2 inches long, but now I think this belt clip is an upgrade. All right, let's have a look at the blade itself. And there you have, this is what he calls the Parang Terung. Now, terung actually is eggplant in Malay. I'm not sure, maybe it looks a bit like a long, thin eggplant, but that's what it's called. It's really his take or a style of a chandong, although I do see a bit of a parang lading in terms of the length and the shape, so maybe kind of a variation. But one thing about Malaysian parangs you notice a lot would be this kind of curved pattern. Sometimes there's a recurve with the golocks. I don't really like that, but for this sort of a chandong pattern or a duku chandong pattern, you get this very common sort of shape. You can see it comes here. Now, one reason is so that when you grip the handle and you're chopping something flat, right, your fingers will not connect because it's curved that way. Now, different parangs will have more curvature depending on the maker themselves. So let me just show you some other parangs. So this is from FF Blades. This is one of his older models, and it's also a chandong, but a bit more straight, as you can see. Doesn't have this sort of curve. Now, both of these are made from SUP 9A, which is a Japanese spring steel similar to 5160. But you can see his pattern here, full-tang as well. There's this large finger choice, so kind of a modern take on a chandong, and this is definitely more traditional in terms of the finish as well, as you can see. All right, let's have a look at some other makers. This is by Parang Terung, and this is also that chandong. Now, this one I would say it's more similar in style to this chandong. There's also a bit of a finger choy, which is not common for traditional parangs. This handle is also not really traditional, but that is something you can get, and this is 8-inch. Now, something that's more of a traditional pattern would be this My Parang Duku Chandong. You can see the similarities here. Now, the Duku generally has a larger head, and then it swells up to a thinner neck over here. And you can see this is a very traditional parang handle. So I would say, yeah, probably these two, the Terung and this Duku Chandong or Mini Duku Chandong, have more similarities. But anyway, you can see the distinct kind of a pattern in that Malaysian parang with this Parang Terung. All right, let's talk about this. This is a 4.5 millimeter blade. It is Sup 9A steel, as I mentioned. High carbon steel, so it can rust, but with this finish, it's going to reduce corrosion. Of course, you're still going to get rust here, especially with this kind of exposed secondary bevel after sharpening. Now, this is a convex grind, but yes, a convex grind is harder to maintain over time. And I have stropped this. I have not needed to sharpen it yet, but I've stropped it so it still maintained that convex grind. Although you probably can see some kind of a micro bevel. And over time, when I do have the sharpen, I'm sure that secondary bevel will be put on. It is full-tang, as you can see, and this is a hardwood handle. Now, I would say the only thing for me, maybe this feels a bit thick, but I've got small to medium hands, but it's still manageable, and even with gloves, it's fine. Now, I've brought this out to the field to test, because what I wanted to see was, well, how good a chopper would this be? Because it seems like quite a thin blade. I know it will be good as a clearing tool, because it's a bit like a lading, which is a clearing tool, well, a weapon, but can also be used as a clearing tool. And definitely, in terms of clearing, easy to slice through. His blade geometry, I think, is just great. That edge retention and the ability to cut is just fantastic with this blade. And just due to the size and the weight, it's easy to maneuver around and just cut through the jungle vegetation easily. Okay, we did 2 minutes of chopping, and I would say probably got halfway through. Definitely very sharp, easy to maneuver because it's pretty lightweight. It is very narrow compared to a chopper, but definitely could get the job done. Personally, I did not feel fatigue. My body did feel the vibrations from the full-tang. It could be how he gripped it. Personally, the way I hold it loose almost to the end, and I just let the weight come down as I chop. And I generally don't get that much of a vibration, whether it's a full-tang. For the handle itself, I mentioned earlier that I felt it was a bit big for my hands. I still think it's a bit big. I would prefer just slightly smaller, but as I mentioned, I have small to medium hands. So if you have larger hands, I think this will be no problem. But generally, as a chopper, definitely I can see this, working quite well. Well, let's talk about the weight, how heavy it is. This is what I would call a sweet spot for a parang, in my opinion. Let's weigh this up. So it's 465 grams, so that's just over 16 ounces. And this is light for a parang or a machete. I always think a sweet spot would be about 500 grams or under 500 grams. If you can get that in a full-tang machete, or even if it's not full-tang, but generally in a full-size parang, I think that's very good. Of course, the bigger you are, the stronger you are, you might find this way too light. But when you want to carry this, when you go hiking for long distances, or you're going to use it for extended periods, trust me, the lighter the better. If you get, at least for me, if I go above 600, 700 grams, I do feel it and get fatigued very fast, and then it becomes a bit more cumbersome than a joy to use. And because of the size, and you notice that this part is unsharpened, and that is common for parangs as well, in this case about 2 inches here, this allows you to choke up so you can do finer work. And because the blade is thin and just the overall geometry, it's easy to control, right? And so when you're doing feather sticking or you're doing something like that, finer work, it is really easy to do. And of course, when you come to other tasks, let's say like battening, splitting wood, obviously not a problem as well. Don't feel much vibration, even though this is full-tang. Overall, weight distribution is good, the balance is good, and I can't really say much bad things about this. This is really a solid parang. And if you talk about the cost, we're talking in, let's say, US dollars. If I was to convert it, it's probably about 75 US dollars, and I think that's a steal. Now, unfortunately, this is made in Malaysia, and due to Malaysia laws, it's impossible to order this easily and get this sent overseas. Malaysia's customs has a big thing about sending out knives or bladed objects from Malaysia to overseas. So even if you're overseas and you wanted to order this, he couldn't send this out. So that's really unfortunate. But I will give you the link to his Facebook page in the description. If you happen to come to Malaysia or you can make some kind of arrangements, you definitely want to have a look at the various parangs he offers, especially this one, because to me this is one of his standout newer products. And if you're looking for a traditional style Malaysian parang but with a full-tang construction, I think you can't go wrong with this based on the fit and finish, the quality and the price point. Well, let me know what you think about this parang. Do you have anything similar in terms of how it looks, in terms of the shape and size? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you like the content in general, please subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. Thanks for watching. Talk to you soon.